Welcome, Rick, Ryan, and Jay. How's audio, video, connection, all that? All right, thank you. Welcome, John and Audrey. All right, we'll get started in a minute or two. Evening, Jayantha. That's better. All right. We'll get started in about a minute. All right. Let's get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Apicchayasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Mahicchasa Santuttasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Asantuttassa Avivittasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Sanganikara Massa Aradda Viryasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Kusitassa Upatittassatasasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Muttasatissa Sammahittasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Asamahittassa Panyavato Ayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Dupanyassa Nipapanchara Masayang Dhammo Nipapancharatino Nayang Dhammo Papanchara Massa Papancharatinio Charatino. All right, English. 8 great noble thoughts. This Dhamma is for reducing desire, not for increasing desire. This Dhamma is for increasing contentment, not for increasing discontentment. This Dhamma is for cultivating seclusion, not for becoming sociable. This Dhamma is for becoming energetic, not for becoming lazy. This Dhamma is for developing mindfulness, not for developing unmindfulness. This Dhamma is for developing composure, not for making restlessness. This Dhamma is for increasing wisdom, not for decreasing wisdom. This Dhamma is for delighting in freedom from impediments, not for delighting in impediments. All right, friends, it is Monday night. That means it's time for another festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community. It's time for Dhammapalooza. As always, Dhammapalooza is a community-guided event, which means that what we do for each Dhammapalooza is up to the community. Sometimes it's just a bunch of Q&A. Sometimes there's no questions and we read suttas. Sometimes, more rarely, there's maybe a Dhamma talk. Somebody wants me to talk about a subject. Or sometimes, every once in a while, there's a discussion that the community has together. All of these things can happen during Dhammapalooza. And I will give the chat a couple of minutes to see if any questions come up, any topics, anybody would like me to discuss, to put in the chat. And if nobody has any questions or anything to suggestions, well, we can do some sutta roulette or read some suttas. Hello, Karuna, welcome. Just gonna keep an eye on the chat for a couple of minutes. Ryan has a question. Do Buddhists or monks fast on full moon days? Well, depending on what you mean by fast, Buddhist monks do that every day, right? Because we're not really allowed to eat much of anything past noon. So some monks will have breakfast and lunch. Some monks will just have one meal a day. And there's some things that are allowable in the evenings. A variety of different small things that are not considered to be full food. And what those things are always debated and interpreted in different ways. But really, the idea for monks is that any eating of major food is done before 12. For lay people, maybe what has come down through the centuries is that sometimes lay people might take the 8 monastic precepts during a posita, during a full moon or a new moon. And one of those monastic precepts would be to eat like a monk. So you would be fasting. You wouldn't have dinner. So yeah, some level of fasting has always been part of Buddhism. It's actually quite a funny thing to look at, because in the very beginning, the monks had 3 meals. And then there was a variety of issues, uh, sometimes related to famine and not being such a burden. And so the Buddha first rule was to say that one can only have breakfast and dinner. And then the monks were going out into the village at night, and people mistook them for thieves, and they got hurt, and all kinds of trouble happened. And so the Buddha said only eating before 12. And in the Vinaya, the monastic rules, there's this funny, the monk says, but dinner is the best meal of the day. Uh, so so that's kind of the evolution of how it worked out that monks don't eat past 12, past solar noon, which of course is changes. um yes, it's 1 p.m. right now because there was no such thing as daylight savings time in India 2600 years ago. Yes, which works out really good if you're traveling. Because you have that extra time to eat if you need it. Hello, Louisa. Welcome. Rick, Bante, can you talk about bringing fun or play into practice? Hmm. I'm trying to think of how to answer this in a Dhamma way and how to answer, because for me personally, even before I was a Buddhist, I always kind of felt it important to have this kind of like childlike attitude to investigating life, right? To exploring life. And it's kind of like a a curious investigation, inquisitiveness, but not taking yourself too seriously, right? And or not taking the journey itself too seriously. And so that's always been kind of part of my path. Where I got that, I don't know. Um, but I think fun and play into practice. I think it might also depend on your kind of proclivities, but I have always enjoyed investigating things. So, like, really, in the early days when I really started to investigate my mind, it was great entertainment. It was very fun. It was like, oh wow, this mind is crazy. I think the key is the not taking yourself too seriously. Dhamma practice is not a joke, right? It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be overly flippant about it, but you shouldn't hold on too seriously either. There's a kind of balance that's needed. In many ways, when we become adults, right, we the world kind of loses its magic because we think we know everything about the world, right? When you're a child and everything is new and you're investigating and exploring, the world feels very magical. And then that goes away. But when you honestly and sincerely start following the practice and you really start doing like satipatthana, mindfulness, investigating your experience, a lot of that kind of magic comes back because there's so much that you never paid attention to your whole life. And once you start paying attention, it's like a whole other universe opens up. And there's just so much to explore and to investigate and to understand. And that's what the second factor of awakening is, Dhamma Vichaya, exploring for all phenomena, investigating phenomena. Now, if you want to investigate or you want to meditate and your mind's like, it feels like a chore, well, part of your mind, it does feel like a chore. But another part of your mind might be like, let's sit down. Who knows what wacky stuff is going to come into our mind while we're following the breath? It might be interesting. You never know. So I think those are the key things. Having a positive attitude towards the practice, having a childlike curiosity and love of exploration and investigation, and not taking yourself too seriously. I think those are what I would say. Do you have any thoughts on cultivating piti, either as part of formal practice or otherwise? No, not really. Piti arises when the causes and conditions are there for it to arise, especially as part of the jhanic, uh, you know, jhanic progression. Now, of course, people kind of have when I use the word piti, I'm thinking of a very specific sutta context, not kind of like, oh, everything, the joy of the practice, the joy of the practice, the bliss of the practice. That's not what. That's all kinds of, I don't want to say wackiness, but it's divorced from Pali, right? This is not what we're talking about when we talk about piti. Um, Piti is a very specific thing in that regard. Piti is the result of a mind that has abandoned unskillful qualities, right? Abandoned the hindrances, a mind that has become stilled and focused on the object of meditation, then piti arises. Now, if you want the question to be cultivating joy in your practice, Well, that's not, joy as in not, we're not talking about piti, just like joy. Then I would say pretty much what I said to Rick's question is the thing there. The practice never becomes all happiness, all joy. That's not how it works. But what you can do is the more your wisdom and insight grows, the more joy you take just in the just in the I'm trying to think of the word, the practice itself, just in the the function of doing the practice. The practice is like this. It's just ups and downs. But in a grander view and an over time view, you notice how much it's changed your life, and it's so much better that you've done it, that kind of joy just sticks around. And it doesn't, especially if you've got, I do believe that you can go far enough that even if you take a break, it's never really going to go away. When you really start developing some wisdom and insights through the practice, yeah, it's those wisdom and insights don't disappear. Your mind might just be taken over by the aversive parts that don't want to bother with it anymore. But once those parts of your mind become weaker, then the joy, and the practice and the desire to do the practice comes back. I've been taught in two specific ways using felt sense of cultivation and anapanasati, or deliberately calling it up as part of bojjhanga practice. Well, the last parts of bojjhanga are essentially explaining sama samadhi. Bojjhanga in many ways is samasati and sama samadhi. Sati, dhammavicaya, virya, piti pasadi, samadhi, upekkha. Right? So I know that different people have kind of used piti in different ways, but in the suttas, I don't know. I think it's a bit of a stretch. I could be wrong, but I don't see the piti in bojjhanga and the piti in anapanasatis being very different. It's all sama samadhi. All right, very good. Yeah, you need that balance. All right. Oh, we've come to the end of the chat. Let's see if anything pops up. If not, we'll do some sutta stuff. All right. Let's do hello, Abby, Isla, and Ivy May. Welcome. Let's do some word roulette. So, just like last week, you type in a word, and then we'll search and see what comes up in the suttas. So, in 3, 2, 1, type in a word. I want to keep doing this so I remember it. Sutta roulette is good, and word roulette is interesting. So, I want to keep remembering. Oh, pickle. All right. Sin. We might see some rules about how monks should and should not chant with that word. Let's see. Tremble. Ooh, interesting words. Okay. Oh, that's right. The acid pickle. Of course. I should have thought of that right away. The acid pickle. Right? Of course that's going to come up. This was maybe 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago on the Maggasekha Discord, back when we were very, very busy and we had 3 or 4 mods. We had a joke where each mod and myself actually we chose one of the torture methods listed to be our like mod punishment. So one Adriana who chose the acid pickle. So if somebody was acting up in the Discord, we'd say, beware of the acid pickle and things like that. So, yes. Okay. So, just wanted to give you some background there. But let's go to the punishments since we have pickles. Do a search. There are mendicants these 2 faults. Oh, wait. Never mind. I didn't. No. Okay. There are mendicants these 2 faults. What 2? The fault apparent in the present life and the fault to do with lives to come. And what is the fault apparent in this present life? It's when someone sees that kings have arrested a bandit, a criminal, and subjected them to various punishments: whipping, caning, clubbing, cutting off hands and feet, or both, cutting off ear or nose, or both, the porridge pot, the shell shave. And there's maybe in the Majjhima Nikaya, one of those, Bhikkhu Bodhi actually has a note where he kind of goes over what we think we know of what these actually are, these tortures. The porridge pot, the shell shave, the Rahu's mouth, the garland of fire, the burning hand, the bulrush twist, the bark dress, the antelope, the meat hook, the coins, the acid pickle, the twisting bar, the straw mat, being slashed with hot oil, being fed to the dogs, being impaled alive, and being beheaded. It occurs to them, if I were to commit the kind of bad deeds for which kings arrest the bandit, that criminal, and do such things, rulers would arrest me and subject me to the same punishments. Afraid of the fault apparent in the present life, they do not steal the belongings of others. This is called the fault apparent in the present life. What is the fault to do with lives to come? It's when someone reflects, bad conduct of body, speech, and mind has bad, painful results in the next life. If I conduct myself badly, then, when my body breaks up after death, won't I be reborn in a place of loss, a bad place, the underworld, hell? Afraid of the fault to do with lives to come, they give up bad conduct by way of body, speech, and mind, and develop good conduct by way of body, speech, and mind. This is called the fault to do with lives to come. All right. Just looking at what else is pickles. Mostly it's about the acid pickle, but there is the sutta there talking about broken rice accompanied by pickle brine. So there is one sutta where there's food. All right. Now the next one, sing. We gotta maybe, can I do like a parentheses thing to just search for the word? No, I guess not. All right. The sound of singing. Let's check this one out. Mendicants, there are these 5 drawbacks in reciting with a drawn-out singing voice. So this is one of the monastic rules, where the Buddha basically says you should not chant like this and you should chant like that. And it's a little complicated as to exactly what it means, which is why you have like the Sri Lankans who kind of are much more like monotone, and the Thais who are much more kind of like upbeat and musical in many ways. But Mendicants, there are these 5 drawbacks in reciting with a drawn out singing voice. What 5? You relish the sound of your own voice. Others relish the sound of your voice. Householders complain. These ascetics, followers of the Sakyans, sing just like us. When you're enjoying the melody, your immersion breaks up. Those who come after follow your example. These are the 5 drawbacks of reciting with a drawn-out singing voice. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? Didn't. So we see here, if you ever wonder why monk chanting is monotone and boring or whatever, well, here you go. 5 drawbacks of, chanting the Dhamma into being a singing diva. Hello, Bhante Varapanyu. Welcome. See what else we can get from singing. I think I actually am going to save that. So I can put that in my Vinaya notes. What's AN 364? Ah, all right. Sarabha. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha, a Mount Vulture peak. Now, on that occasion, a wanderer named Sarabha had recently left this Dhamma and discipline. He had been telling the assembly at Rajagaha, I have learned the Dhamma of the ascetics who follow the Sakyan Sun. After I learned their Dhamma, I left that Dhamma and discipline. Then one morning, a number of bhikkhus dressed took their bowler robes and entered Rajagaha for alms. There, they then heard the wanderer Sarabha making such a statement to an assembly at Rajagaha. When those bhikkhus had walked for alms in Rajagaha, after their meal, when they returned from their alms round, they approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to him, Bhante, the wanderer Sarabha, who recently left this Dhamma and discipline, has been telling, and this is for Ryan and anybody who's new, if somebody says that the Buddha did not create an ism or a religion, he didn't have a name like Buddhism is a modern made-up name, which I guess technically it is. This is what the Buddha called what he created, the Dhamma and the discipline. So when you see that in the suttas, that's what the Buddha is talking about. It would be good, Bhante, if the Blessed One would go to the Wanderers Park on the bank of the Sapinika River, and out of compassion approach the wanderer Sarabha. The Blessed One consented in silence. Then in the evening, the Blessed One emerged from seclusion and went to the Wanderers' Park of the bank of the Sapinika River. He approached the wanderer Sarabha, sat down on the seat that was prepared for him, and said to him, Is it true, Sarabha, that you have been saying, I have learned the Dhamma of the ascetics who follow the Sakyan Sun. After I learned their Dhamma, I left this Dhamma and discipline. When this was said, the wanderer Sarabha was silent. A second time, the Blessed One asked. A third time, the Blessed One asked. Tell me, Sarabha, how have you learned the Dhamma of the ascetics who follow the Sakyan Sun? If you have not learned it completely, I will complete it. But if you have learned it completely, I will rejoice. But a third time, the wanderer Sarabha was silent. Then those wanderers said to the wanderer Sarabha, the ascetic Gotama has offered to give you whatever you might ask him for, friend Sarabha. Speak, friend Sarabha. How have you learned the Dhamma of the ascetic who follow the Sakyan son? If you have not learned it completely, the ascetic Gotama will complete it for you. But if you have learned it completely, he will rejoice. When this was said, the wanderer Sarabha sat silent, disconcerted, hunched over, downcast, glum, and speechless. Then the Blessed One, having understood that the wanderer Sarabha sat silent, disconcerted, hunched over, downcast, glum, and speechless, said to the wanderers, Wanderers, if anyone should say about me, though you claim to be perfectly enlightened, you are not fully enlightened about these things. I might question him closely about this matter, interrogate him and cross-examine him. When he is being closely questioned by me, interrogated and cross-examined, it is impossible and inconceivable that he would not incur one or another of the three consequences. He would either answer evasively and divert the discussion to an irrelevant subject, or display anger, hatred, and bitterness, or would sit silent, disconcerted, hunched over, downcast, glum, and speechless, just like the wanderer Sarabha. If wanderers, anyone should say about me, the Dhamma does not lead one who practices it to the complete destruction of suffering, the goal for the sake of which you teach it. I might question him closely about this matter, interrogate him and cross-examine him. When he is being closely questioned by me, interrogated and cross-examined, it is impossible and inconceivable that he would not incur one or another of the three consequences. It's the same thing. Then the Blessed One, having roared his lion's roar 3 times in the Wanderer's Park on the bank of the Supanika River, rose into the air and departed. Now that is one of the very, very few times that we see the Buddha doing, like at the end of a sutta. This is like the ultimate drop the mic moment. He's like, he just rises up into the air and departs. All right, see you later. That's interesting. Then, soon after the Blessed One had left, these wanderers gave the wanderer Sarabha a thorough verbal lashing, saying, just as an old jackal in a huge forest might think, I will roar a lion's roar, and yet would only howl and yelp like a jackal, so, friend Sarabha, claiming in the absence of the ascetic Gotama, I will roar a lion's roar, you only howled and yelped like a jackal. Just as, friend Sarabha, a chick might say, I will sing like a cock, and yet one would only sing like a chick. So, friend Sarabha, claiming the absence of the ascetic Gotama, I will sing like a cock, you only sang like a chick. Just as, friend Sarabha, a bull might think to bellow deeply in an empty cowshed, so, friend Sarabha, in the absence of the ascetic Gotama, you thought you could bellow deeply. In this way, those wanderers gave the wanderer Sarabha a thorough lashing. Hello, Marco. Welcome. Hello, Yankee. So, Karuna, there it is for you. So let's go back to, we still had, I think, at least one more word. What was the word? Tremble. Let's look up tremble. I'm interested in these ones. Let me see here. Mendicants, a mendicant with 8 qualities is worthy of going on a mission. This is Dutiya. This is, at least in the Sri Lankan tradition, monks who, like for instance, my preceptor Bhante Gunaratana, who left Sri Lanka and came to America in 1963. This was what they would call his Dhammaduta, his Dhamma mission. Right? This is a fairly common term, a Dhammaduta, Dhamma mission. Maggasekha is my Dhamma mission. It's my Dhammaduta. All right. I did it again, didn't I? All right. Here we go. Mendicants, a mendicant with 8 qualities is worthy of going on a mission. What 8? If a mendicant who learns, it's a mendicant who learns and educates others. They memorize and remember. They understand and help others understand. They're skilled at knowing what's on topic and what isn't, and they don't cause quarrels. A mendicant with these 8 qualities is worthy of going on a mission. Having 8 qualities, Sariputta is worthy of going on a mission. What 8? He learns and educates others. So he learns like he himself learns, right? It's not like I'm going to learn you. It's kind of weirdly, I think, made, but that's what this means. Like, so you practice and you learn and then you educate others. He memorizes and remembers. He understands and helps others understand. He's skilled at knowing what's on topic and what isn't, and he doesn't cause quarrels. Having these 8 qualities, Sariputta is worthy of going on a mission. They don't tremble when arriving at an assembly of fierce debaters. They don't miss out any words or conceal the instructions. Their words aren't poisoned, and they don't tremble when questioned. Such a mendicant is worthy of going on a mission. Hello, Perennial Daydreams. Welcome. So, Jayantha has a word, abeyadana. Let's check it out. Let's see what comes up. Make sure I got it right. That's partial. Nothing coming up. I could run that through my Poly program first. Nothing. Interesting. Ah, there we go. Nope. Abheya means shines, irradiates, illumines. So shining or illuminating dana. But nothing is coming up. Saving. Hello, Jose. Welcome. So, Marco, perennial Jose, we are doing a little game where you choose a word, and then I look it up, and we see what what comes up in the suttas. So, if you would like to give a word, we can do this a little bit more, maybe for another 10 minutes or so. If you've already given a word that we've gone through, don't give one. But those of you who are just joining, if you would like to give a word for me to search and find and read what the suttas come up, then you're welcome to do so. And then after this, we'll probably do some meditation and then call it a night. Warrior. All right. All right. Very good. Let's see what we got. Lots of suttas called warrior. Hello, Visakha. Welcome. Okay, this is a long one, so I don't know. Well, maybe not too. Let's see. In the same way, Salha, those ascetics and Brahmins who don't teach fervent mortification and disgust of sin, not regarding it as essential or clinging to it, are capable of crossing the flood. And those ascetics and Brahmins whose behavior by way of body, speech, and mind is pure are also capable of knowing and seeing of supreme awakening. Suppose there was a warrior who knew lots of fancy archery tricks. It is only with these three factors that he becomes worthy of a king, fit to serve a king, and is considered a factor of kingship. What three? He's a long-distance shooter, a marksman, and one who shatters large objects. Just as a warrior is a long-distance shooter, a noble disciple has right immersion. A noble disciple with right immersion truly sees any kind of form at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, coarse or fine, interior or superior, far or near, all form, with right understanding. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. They truly see any feeling, perception, choices, consciousness of any kind. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. Just as a warrior is a marksman, a noble disciple has right view. Noble disciple with right view truly understands. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. and this is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. Just as a warrior shatters large objects, a noble disciple has right freedom. A noble disciple with right freedom shatters the great mass of ignorance. That's a nice sutta. Let's look at another one. So there is a whole chapter in the Anguttara Nikaya called the chapter on a warrior, Yoda. It's an interesting word for warrior, right? Yoda. Let's see if these are really any different. I think there's a lot of repetition in these things. Oh. Mendicant, a warrior with 4 factors, is worthy of a king, fit to serve a king, and is considered a factor of kingship. What for? He's skilled in the basics, a long-distance shooter, a marksman, one who shatters large objects. Yeah, so we saw this already. Let's see this one. Oh, this is a long one for Anguttara Nikaya. Mendicants, these 5 warriors are found in the world. What 5? Firstly, one warrior falters and founders at the mere sight of a cloud of dust. He doesn't stay firm and fails to plunge into battle. Some warriors are like that. This is the first warrior found in the world. Furthermore, one warrior can prevail over a cloud of dust, but he falters and founders at the mere sight of a banner's crest. So what's going on is this, right? So you're a warrior, you're in a line, and the other army is coming and kicking up lots of dust, right? So you already know the dust is the sign that you're going to have to fight and you might die. So some warriors at that stage, they're gone. Then the next warrior sees the banners of the army, and then, oh, well, okay, now, oh God, right? He falters and founders at the mere sight of the banner's crest. Some warriors are like that. This is the second warrior. Furthermore, one warrior can prevail over a dust and banner, but he falters and founders at the mere sound of turmoil. So the sound of battle that's starting. He doesn't stay firm and fails to plunge into battle. This is the third warrior found in the world. Furthermore, a warrior can prevail over the previous, but he's killed or injured when blows are struck. Some warriors are like that. This is the fourth warrior found in the world. Furthermore, one warrior can prevail over all these other ones. He wins a victory in battle, establishing himself as foremost in battle. Some warriors are like that. This is the fifth warrior. And so now we're going to see about monks. And it's the same thing. So he falters and founders at the mere sight of a cloud of dust. He doesn't stay firm and fails to keep the holy life. What is his cloud of dust? It's when a monk hears in such and such a village or town, there's a woman or girl who is attractive, good looking, lovely, of surpassing beauty. Hearing this, he falters and founders. He doesn't stay firm and fails to keep the spiritual life. This is his cloud of dust. Furthermore, one did it, but the banner's crest. So what's the banner's crest? It's when a monk doesn't hear in such and such a village there's a woman or a girl who's attractive, good looking, lovely, surpassing beauty, but he sees for himself a woman or a girl who's attractive, good looking, lovely, of surpassing beauty. Seeing her, he falters and founders, he doesn't stay firm, and fails to keep up the spiritual life. What about the third one? He falters and founders at the mere sound of turmoil. What is turmoil? It's when a mendicant who has gone to a wilderness or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut is approached by a female. She smiles, chats, laughs, and teases him. He falters and founders. He doesn't stay firm and fails to keep up the spiritual life. That's turmoil. Furthermore, one prevails over these, but he's killed or injured when blows are struck. What is blows are struck? It's when a mendicant who has gone to the wilderness, the root of a tree, is approached by a female. She sits right by him, lies down, or embraces him. Without resigning the training or declaring his inability to continue, he has sexual intercourse. This is his blows are struck. He's killed pretty much, because if you do that, you're done as a monk. Your monk's life is essentially destroyed. So that makes perfect sense that would be there. Okay. Furthermore, a monk can prevail over all these. He wins a victory in battle, establishing himself as foremost in battle. What is wins a victory in battle? So when a mendicant who has gone to a wilderness is approached by a female, she sits right by him, lies down, or embraces him, but he disentangles and frees himself and goes wherever he wants. He frequents a secluded lodging, etc. And it looks like then this goes through the various stages. Interesting the word. You forgot though, there's an H. It's Yodha. Yodha. That's how you would pronounce it. Yodha. You got a little aspirated H. Yodha. Yoda. All right. Chat's quiet. Why don't we do some meditation? I think I'm not going to guide this one because I'm feeling a little tired. I'm just going to let us meditate together in silence. So All right. Slowly start to open your eyes, becoming familiar with the room around you, your body's position in it, reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and contemplating any experiences during the meditation that stood out. And while you do that, start to read some Dhammapada. Hell. The liar goes to the state of woe. Also he who, having done wrong, says, I did not do it. Men of base actions both, on departing they share the same destiny in the other world. There are many evil characters and uncontrolled men wearing the saffron robe. These wicked men will be born in states of woe because of their evil deeds. It would be better to swallow a red-hot iron ball blazing like fire than as an immoral and uncontrolled monk to eat the alms of the people. Four misfortunes befall the reckless man who consorts with another's wife: acquisition of demerit, disturbed sleep, ill repute, and rebirth in the states of woe. Such a man acquires demerit and an unhappy birth in the future. Grief is the pleasure of the frightened man and woman, and the king imposes heavy punishment. Hence, let no man consort with another's wife. Just as kusa grass wrongly handled cuts the hands, even so a recluse's life wrongly lived drags one to the states of woe. Any loose act, any corrupt observance, any life of questionable celibacy, none of these bear much fruit. If anything is to be done, let one do it with sustained vigor. A lax monastic life stirs up the dust of passions all the more. An evil deed is better left undone, for such a deed torments one afterwards. But a good deed is better done, doing which one repents not later. Just as a border city is closely guarded both within and without, even so guard yourself. Do not let slip this opportunity for spiritual growth. For those who let slip this opportunity grieve indeed, consigning themselves to hell. Those who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of, and are not ashamed of what they should be ashamed of. Upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who see something to fear where there is nothing to fear, and see nothing to fear where there is something to fear, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who imagine evil where there is none, and do not see evil where it is, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who discern the wrong as wrong and the right as right, upholding right views, they go to realms of bliss. All right, friends. With that, we come to the end of another Dhammapalooza. Those of you who might be joining us for the first time, if you'd like to find out more information for myself and the organization I'm building, Maggasekha, you can go to the website maggasekha.org, listed on the screen. I do a variety of different Dhamma activities through the week on a variety of different platforms: YouTube, Insight Timer, Discord, etc. And you can find out all kinds of information about that and everything I post on the website there. All links, everything you can find on the website. All right, let's share merit. Call it a night. Share screen. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, baya patta chani baya, sokha patta chani sokha, hantu sabbe pipaniyo, etta patta cha mehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata chabumata deva naga mahedika, punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this dispensation of ours. Share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Well, with that, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again, which, who knows when? Could be tomorrow morning for Morning Monastery Experience, at another event, or next Monday, if I'm alive, for another Morning Monastery Experience. Have a good week.